Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. This is Lounge Fever, a series of videos where we try to answer your questions. Questions that we receive from our community members through social media, YouTube comments, emails, and whatnot, right? Today, we are answering a question that says, how does teams organize themselves on the ground? Self-organizing team is one of the important concepts in Scrum. So if you have studied Scrum, you would have definitely heard or read about this concept known as self-organizing team. But how does this look like on the ground? How do teams organize themselves? That's the question that we are trying to answer today. A quick reminder, we have three important links in the description below. If you want to go over all such Lounge Fever videos on the agile topics, then first link in the description is going to be an entire playlist. We have answered a lot of questions that we've received from our community members. Second is the link that will teach you an entire playlist that is going to teach you everything that you need to know when it comes to the agile part of your PMP exam. Also, if you are preparing for your PMI-ACP exam, then third link in the description is the playlist that you should check out. All right, that being clear, that being said, let's get started. Please hit the like button to feed the YouTube algorithm. So what is the traditional approach? If you are a project manager on, let's say, a traditional waterfall environment, what you basically do is you create the project plan. And of course, you don't do it alone. You basically take help from different team members, but not every single person of the project team is involved in creating the project plan, right? You as a project manager are responsible for creating the project plan. So in the traditional approach, traditional waterfall environment, you create the project plan, and based on that plan, the tasks are assigned to the project team members. Now, these tasks could be assigned by you if you're working in a projectized environment, or these tasks could be assigned to the project team members by their respective managers if you're working in a matrix environment. So that's how traditionally work was basically allocated to different project team members. But Scrum teams, they do not operate like this. Scrum teams are self-organizing, and this is the difference between the Scrum environment and the traditional waterfall environment, because nobody is telling the Scrum team members what to do. So what exactly is the Scrum approach to this, right? The entire Scrum team, they work together to create a plan, unlike a single person doing so. Now, I know you might say that, hey, I work in the traditional waterfall model environment, but I'm not a single person. I'm the project manager, but I'm not the single person creating a project plan, which could be true. But in Scrum approach, in this kind of approach, the entire team works together. That's how Scrum differentiates itself from the traditional waterfall environment, right? So the plan is created by the entire Scrum team. Here's an example. The development team members, they decide what will be delivered. Now, of course, it can be influenced by the product owner, right? But end of the day, it's the development team members that are deciding what will be delivered, and they can add new work to the sprint backlog as needed if required. If they are done early and they can take in more work, they can actually take more work from the sprint backlog. Of course, this, what kind of work they should take in, what kind of features they should take in, can also be influenced by the product owner. But you kind of need to realize the fact that how the development team has a lot of independence here to decide what they are going to deliver, and how they can also take new work if required from the sprint backlog. In a nutshell, the entire Scrum team decides how they'll meet the goals, the Scrum goal, the sprint goals, right? How they are going to meet those goals, that's decided by the entire Scrum team. You can head over to pmclounge.com/resources. That's where we have listed all the book recommendations, all the resources that we recommend for your PMP exam. Check it out. Now let's try to look into how this self-organization actually happens, because that was the ultimate question we were trying to answer, right? How do teams self-organize on the ground on real life projects? Now, this isn't something that happens at the sprint planning. So there's a sprint planning meeting that takes place, right? And That's not where a self-organizing activity happens and then everybody forgets about self-organizing for the rest of the project, right? That's not how it works. Self-organizing is actually an ongoing aspect of Scrum. And how is this made possible? The Scrum team, they constantly adapt their plan by checking with each other at the daily Scrum. So the daily Scrum is also one meeting which is attended by every single Scrum team member. And the Scrum team is adapting their plan based on whatever that comes up at the daily Scrum. Remember, every person in the Scrum team needs to answer three questions in the daily Scrum. What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And are there any impediments in your way? So let's say you are someone from the development team and you in the daily Scrum, you say that you have a certain impediment in your way, and a colleague of yours, someone else from the development team, tells you that you can change your approach and that way this impediment is going to be removed. If that happens, you and your colleague are going to work together to fix it, to basically remove that impediment. Now while you're doing so, it is possible that this results in a change in the plan. Now I just gave an example, and your question, your immediate next question could be, are these two people working on the daily Scrum meeting itself? Let's take a look at the next slide. So does this discussion happen in the daily Scrum? Of course not, because daily Scrum is a time boxed meeting, right? So you cannot have two people hijack the entire meeting and talk about a certain impediment, right? What happens is these two people are going to have a further discussion later, right? After the daily Scrum. And they can also involve other people if they think they need some more folks from the development team. They can involve them as well, and they are going to work towards fixing or removing that impediment. So it is not something that happens on the daily Scrum, but this is something that can happen outside of the daily Scrum. And let's say when they were doing so, when they were removing the impediment, let's say there was a change in the plan that needs to happen. So what happens next is that this change can be reviewed in the next daily Scrum so that the entire team is on board. Once that happens, this change is officially approved, and basically the Scrum team now has a new plan. And that's how the Scrum team self organizes. There's no change control board that this team is going to go to and get their changes approved, right? They self organize, they work on issues themselves, and they adapt their plans based on whatever the outcome is, however they seem fit. And here's the question for this video. How has your experience of self-organization been? Let me know in the comments. Definitely looking forward to your answers on real life projects, right? On the ground. Does your Scrum team self-organize? Are they able to do so? Let me know in the comments. So that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it, and I hope you were able to understand how self-organization happens on ground. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Smash that like button if you enjoyed, and hit the bell icon to stay notified every time we upload new content. Please do consider contributing to us at pmclounge.com/contribute. Thank you.